The alarm in my skull was not real, but it felt real enough to stop my hands from moving. I was kneeling on a floor made of warm black stone, inside a chamber where no human had ever been allowed to enter, and the creature standing behind me could end my life with a single thought. My name is Colin Fairweather, and 3 months ago I was fixing water filters on a supply ship. Now I was inside the private nest of the Xantari Queen, holding a small metal device that could either save a life or get me killed before sunset. The Xantari were not like us. They were tall, thin, covered in dark plating that shimmered faintly, and they spoke to each other without sound, through a shared mental current called the Hive Song. Only their queen could speak it to all of them at once. Humans could not hear it. Humans were, in their eyes, deaf to everything that mattered. That was the joke the universe played on me, because the reason I was in that chamber was a child who could not hear anything at all, not even the ordinary sound of air moving. Her name was Sova. She was the queen's only living heir, small for her age, with wide silver eyes that followed movement but never turned toward noise. I had noticed it 3 days earlier during a routine repair job near the nursery wing. A metal panel had fallen behind her, loud enough to make every guard in the corridor flinch. Sova did not move at all. I mentioned it to no one that day. Xantari did not take kindly to humans commenting on their children, but the image stayed in my mind all night because I knew that look. I had seen it before, back on Earth, in my little cousin who was born without hearing until doctors gave her an implant at the age of 2. The next morning, I asked to see the Queen. Every human on the station told me I was out of my mind. "You do not request an audience with a Xantari Queen," said Priya Malhotra, our contingent's lead diplomat, when she heard what I planned to do. "You wait for one if you're lucky enough to get it at all." "Then I'll wait outside her chamber until she notices me," I said. She noticed me faster than I expected. Guards with plated arms and quiet, terrible strength escorted me into the chamber within the hour. I remember the walk down that corridor more clearly than almost anything else in my life, because every step felt like walking toward a decision I could not take back. The Queen was seated on a raised platform, her body coiled with unnatural stillness. When she looked at me, I felt something press against the inside of my skull, not painful but immense, like standing too close to a mountain. "You are the human who repairs machines," she said. Her voice came out flat and mechanical, translated through a small device clipped to my collar. "Why do you request my time?" I kept my eyes down, because I had been warned that direct eye contact was seen as a challenge among her kind. "Your daughter cannot hear," I said. "I think I can help her." The silence that followed lasted long enough that I thought I had already made a fatal mistake. "You dare speak of a defect in the royal bloodline," the Queen said. Her plating shifted, and 2 guards stepped closer to me. "Among my people that is not spoken of. It is not treated. It is endured in silence until the child either compensates or does not survive court life." "Where I come from," I said, my voice shaking more than I wanted it to, "we do not let a child suffer just because no one has tried to fix it. We build tools for exactly this problem. I have seen it work. I have seen a child hear her mother's voice for the first time in her life." Another long pause. The mountain in my mind pressed harder, testing me, I think, to see if I would break. "If you fail," the Queen said finally, "you will not leave this chamber." "I understand," I said, and I meant it. She allowed me 3 days to prepare. 3 days to build, from scavenged medical supplies and old cochlear technology from a storage crate nobody on the station had opened in years, something that had never existed before, an implant designed for a body that was not human at all. I barely slept. I worked with Priya, who translated anatomical scans from the Xantari Medical Archive, and with a station doctor named Elliot Marsh, who kept reminding me that if the device damaged Sova's nervous system, there would be no apology large enough to save any of us. You understand the risk, Elliot said on the second night, watching me solder a connector under harsh white light. If this fails, they won't just execute you. They'll pull our whole team off this station. Maybe worse. I understand, I said again, because it was the only true thing I had to offer. By the third day, I had something that might work. A small cluster of sensors shaped to match the unusual inner architecture of a Xantari skull, tuned to translate vibration into a signal her nervous system could actually read. It was not perfect. It had never been tested, but it was the only chance Sova had. They brought me back into the Queen's chamber, and this time, Sova was there too, sitting cross-legged near her mother's feet, watching me with those same wide silver eyes. "Proceed," the Queen said. My hands were steadier than I expected, maybe because there was no room left for fear once the moment actually arrived. I knelt in front of Sova, showed her the small device resting in my palm, and let her touch it first, the way I would with any frightened child. She studied it for a long moment, then reached out and touched my hand instead, as if she were studying me the same way. The procedure took almost an hour. Every second of it felt like 10. I placed the sensors with careful precision, guided by scans and instinct, and every ounce of training I had ever received. Elliot monitored her vital signs beside me, his face pale under the chamber's dim light. The Queen did not speak once during the entire process, though I could feel her attention like a physical weight the whole time. When it was finished, I activated the device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Sova's whole body went rigid. Her eyes widened even further, darting around the room as if searching for something invisible. Her small hands flew up to the sides of her head. "Something is wrong," the Queen said, rising from her seat, her plating flaring outward in alarm. "Wait," I said, holding up a hand, my heart pounding. "Give her a moment, this is new, it's overwhelming." Sova turned her head toward the low hum of the chamber's ventilation system, an ordinary sound that had surrounded her entire life without her ever noticing it. Then she turned toward the sound of her mother's breathing. Then, slowly, toward the sound of her mother's voice as the Queen spoke her name for the first time in a way her daughter could actually hear. Sova began to cry, not from pain, but the way any child cries when the world suddenly becomes bigger than they ever imagined it could be. The Queen knelt down in front of her daughter, something I had never seen a Xantari queen do for anyone. She spoke softly, testing whether the sound reached her child, and when Sova turned toward her voice and reached out with both small hands, the Queen made a sound I did not expect. She laughed, a short, surprised, unmistakably real laugh. I stepped back, giving them space, my legs suddenly weak with relief. Elliot placed a hand on my shoulder, and Priya, standing near the chamber entrance, had tears in her eyes that she quickly wiped away before anyone else could notice. The Queen looked up at me after several long minutes, and the weight in my mind that had pressed down on me since the moment I entered her chamber suddenly eased, replaced with something gentler, something almost warm. "You have given my daughter something none of our finest healers ever attempted," she said. "You risked your own life for a child who is not of your species, not of your blood, not even of your world." "She's a child," I said simply. That was reason enough. The Queen studied me for a long moment, and I felt that mountain in my mind shift again, this time not testing me, but recognizing me. "Among my people," she said, "there is a bond we reserve only for those who share the hive song, who are connected to us by blood and mind. But you have given my daughter the one thing that connects her to the sound of my voice, the sound of her people, the sound of her own name. That is a gift beyond blood." She rose to her full height, and every guard in the chamber straightened at once, sensing something significant was about to happen. "From this day, Colin Fairweather, you are hivekin. You and every human who stands beside you on this station are family of my nest, protected as my own, honored as my own." I did not fully understand in that moment what those words meant to her people. I would learn later that no outsider in the entire recorded history of the Xantari Empire had ever been given that title. I would learn that word of it spread through other alien houses within days, forcing entire governments to reconsider what they thought they knew about humanity. But standing there in that chamber, none of that mattered yet. What mattered was Sova, laughing at the sound of her own laughter, hearing herself for the very first time, reaching for her mother's voice like it was the most wonderful thing in the universe. I thought about my little cousin back on Earth, about the day she got her own implant, about the way she cried and laughed at the exact same time, just like this. Some things, I realized, are the same no matter which stars you are born under. The Queen placed a clawed hand gently on my shoulder, a gesture I later learned was reserved only for family. "You gave her the gift of hearing," she said quietly. "I will make sure the galaxy hears what you have done." I looked at Sova, still listening to every new sound around her with wide, delighted eyes, and I thought that whatever came next, whatever the galaxy decided to think of humanity because of this one small moment, it had been worth every second of fear I felt walking into that chamber. Because in the end, it was never about proving humanity's worth to anyone. It was about a child hearing her mother's voice for the very first time. And that, I have come to believe, is a language every species in the universe can understand.